leading to the gay liberation movement and the modern fight for LGBT rights. Wayne R. Dines, author of the Encyclopedia of Homosexuality, wrote that drag queens were the only transgender folks around during the Stonewall riots. The transgender community in New York City played a significant role in fighting for LGBT equality. In the 1970s, job losses due to industrial restructuring caused New York City to suffer from economic problems and rising crime rates. Growing fiscal deficits in 1975 led the city to appeal to the federal government for financial aid. President Gerald Ford gave a speech denying the request, which was paraphrased on the front page of the New York Daily News as "Ford to City, Drop Dead." The Municipal Assistance Corporation was formed and granted oversight authority over the city's finances. While a resurgence in the financial industry greatly improved the city's economic health in the 1980s, New York's crime rate continued to increase through that decade and into the beginning of the 1990s. New York City's population exceeded 8 million for the first time in the 2000 census. Further records were set in the 2010 and 2020 censuses. Important new economic sectors, such as Silicon Alley, emerged. The year 2000 was celebrated with fanfare in Times Square. New York City suffered the bulk of the economic damage and largest loss of human life in the aftermath of the 11th of September, 2001, attacks. 2 of the 4 hijacked airliners were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, resulting in the collapse of both buildings and the deaths of 2,753 people, including 343 first responders from the New York City Fire Department and 71 law enforcement officers. The area was rebuilt with a new World Trade Center, the National the 11th of September Memorial and Museum, and other new buildings and infrastructure, including the World Trade Center Transportation Hub, the city's 3rd largest hub. The new One World Trade Center is the tallest skyscraper in the Western Hemisphere and the world's 7th tallest building by pinnacle height, with its spire reaching a symbolic 1,776 feet. 541.3 m, a reference to the year of American independence. The Occupy Wall Street protests in Zuccotti Park in the financial district of Lower Manhattan began on the 17th of September, 2011, receiving global attention and popularizing the Occupy movement against social and economic inequality worldwide. New York City was heavily impacted by Hurricane Sandy in October 2012, including flooding that led to the days-long shutdown of the subway system, and flooding of all East River subway tunnels and of all road tunnels entering Manhattan except the Lincoln Tunnel. The New York Stock Exchange closed for 2 days due to weather for the first time since the Great Blizzard of 1888. At least 43 people died in New York City as a result of Sandy, and the economic losses in New York City were estimated to be roughly $19 billion. The disaster spawned long-term efforts towards infrastructural projects to counter climate change and rising seas, with $15 billion in federal funding received through 2022 towards those resiliency efforts. In March 2020, the first case of COVID-19 in the city was confirmed. With its population density and extensive exposure to global travelers, the city rapidly replaced Wuhan, China as the global epicenter of the pandemic during the early phase, straining the city's healthcare infrastructure. Through March 2023, New York City recorded more than 80,000 deaths from COVID-19 related complications. Geography. Main articles: Geography of New York City and Geography of New York, New Jersey Harbor Estuary. New York City lies in the northeastern United States, in southeastern New York State, approximately halfway between Washington, D.C. and Boston. Its location at the mouth of the Hudson River, which feeds into a naturally sheltered harbor and then into the Atlantic Ocean, has helped the city become a significant trading port. Most of the city is built on the three islands of Long Island, Manhattan, and Staten Island. During the Wisconsin glaciation, 75,000 to 11,000 years ago, the New York City area was situated at the edge of a large ice sheet. The erosive forward movement of the ice, and its subsequent retreat, contributed to the separation of what is now Long Island and Staten Island. That action left bedrock at a relatively shallow depth, providing a solid foundation for most of Manhattan's skyscrapers. The Hudson River flows through the Hudson Valley into New York Bay. Between New York City and Troy, New York, the river is an estuary. The Hudson River separates the city from New Jersey. The East River, a tidal strait, flows from Long Island Sound and separates the Bronx and Manhattan from Long Island. The Harlem River, another tidal strait between the East and Hudson Rivers, separates most of Manhattan from the Bronx. The Bronx River, which flows through the Bronx and Westchester County, is the only entirely freshwater river in the city. The city's land has been altered substantially by human intervention, with considerable land reclamation along the waterfronts since Dutch colonial times. Reclamation is most prominent in Lower Manhattan, with developments such as Battery Park City in the 1970s and 1980s. Some of the natural relief in topography has been evened out, especially in Manhattan. The city's total area is 468.484 square miles, 1,213.37 kilometers. 302.643 square mi, 783.84 kilometers, of the city is land and 165.841 square mi, 429.53 kilometers, of it is water. The highest point in the city is Todt Hill on Staten Island, which, at 409.8 feet, 124.9 m, above sea level, is the highest point on the eastern seaboard south of Maine. The summit of the ridge is mostly covered in woodlands as part of the Staten Island Green Belt. Boroughs. Main articles: Boroughs of New York City and neighborhoods in New York City. New York City is sometimes referred to collectively as the 5 boroughs. Each borough is coextensive with the respective county of New York State, making New York City one of the U.S. municipalities in multiple counties. Manhattan, New York County, is the geographically smallest and most densely populated borough. It is home to Central Park and most of the city's skyscrapers, and is sometimes locally known as the City. Manhattan's population density of 70,450.8 inhabitants per square mile, 27,201.2 in 2022 makes it the highest of any county in the United States and higher than the density of any individual American city. Manhattan is the cultural, administrative, and financial center of New York City and contains the headquarters of many major multinational corporations, the United Nations headquarters, Wall Street, and a number of important universities. The borough is often described as the financial and cultural center of the world. Brooklyn, Kings County, on the western tip of Long Island, is the city's most populous borough. Brooklyn is known for its cultural, social, and ethnic diversity, an independent art scene, distinct neighborhoods, and a distinctive architectural heritage. Downtown Brooklyn is the largest central core neighborhood in the outer boroughs. The borough has a long beachfront shoreline including Coney Island, established in the 1870s as one of the earliest amusement grounds in the United States. Marine Park and Prospect Park are the two largest parks in Brooklyn. Since 2010, Brooklyn has evolved into a thriving hub of entrepreneurship and high-technology startup firms, and of postmodern art and design. Brooklyn is also home to Fort Hamilton, the U.S. military's only active-duty installation within New York City, aside from Coast Guard operations. The facility was established in 1825 on the site of a battery used during the American Revolution, and it is one of America's longest-serving military forts. Queens County, on Long Island north and east of Brooklyn, is geographically the largest borough, the most ethnically diverse county in the United States, and the most ethnically diverse urban area in the world. Queens is the site of the Citi Field, home of the New York Mets, and hosts the annual U.S. Open tennis tournament at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in Flushing Meadows Corona Park, with plans to build Etihad Park, a soccer-specific stadium for New York City FC. Additionally, two of the three busiest airports serving the New York metropolitan area, John F. Kennedy International Airport and LaGuardia Airport, are in Queens. The Bronx County, is both New York City's northernmost borough and the only one that is mostly on the U.S. mainland. It is the location of Yankee Stadium, the baseball park of the New York Yankees, and home to the largest cooperatively owned housing complex in the United States, Co-op City. It is home to the Bronx Zoo, the world's largest metropolitan zoo, which spans 265 acres, 1.07 kilometer, and houses more than 6,000 animals. The Bronx is the birthplace of hip-hop music and its associated culture. Pelham Bay Park is the largest park in New York City, at 2,772 acres, 1,122 ha. Staten Island, Richmond County, is the most suburban in character of the five boroughs. It is connected to Brooklyn by the Verrazzano Narrows Bridge, and to Manhattan by way of the free Staten Island Ferry. In central Staten Island, the Staten Island Green Belt spans approximately 2,500 acres, 10 kilometers, including 28 miles, 45 kilometers, of walking trails and one of the last undisturbed forests in the city. Designated in 1984 to protect the island's natural lands, the Green Belt comprises 7 city parks. Climate. Main article, Climate of New York City. Under the Köppen climate classification, New York City has a humid subtropical climate, CFA, and is the northernmost major city on the North American continent with this categorization. The suburbs to the immediate north and west are in the transitional zone between humid subtropical and humid continental climates, TFA. The city receives an average of 49.5 inches, 1,260 millimeters, of precipitation annually, which is relatively evenly spread throughout the year. New York averages over 2,500 hours of sunshine annually. Winters are chilly and damp, and prevailing wind patterns that blow sea breezes offshore temper the moderating effects of the Atlantic Ocean, yet the Atlantic and the partial shielding from colder air by the Appalachian Mountains keep the city warmer in the winter than inland North American cities at similar or lesser latitudes. The daily mean temperature in January, the area's coldest month, is 33.3 degrees Fahrenheit, 0.7 degrees Celsius. Temperatures usually drop to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, 12 degrees C, several times per winter, yet can also reach 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 degrees Celsius, for several days even in the coldest winter month. Spring and autumn are unpredictable and can range from cool to warm, although they are usually mild with low humidity. Summers are typically hot and humid, with a daily mean temperature of 77.5 degrees Fahrenheit, 25.3 degrees Celsius, in July. Nighttime temperatures are 9.5 degrees Fahrenheit, 5.3 degrees Celsius, degrees higher for the average city resident due to the urban heat island effect, caused by paved streets and tall buildings. Daytime temperatures exceed 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 degrees Celsius, on average of 17 days each summer, and in some years exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius, although this is a rare occurrence, last noted on the 18th of July 2012. Similarly, readings of 0 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 degrees C, are extremely rare, last occurring on the 14th of February 2016. Extreme temperatures have ranged from 106 degrees Fahrenheit, 41 degrees Celsius, recorded on the 9th of July 1936, down to 15 degree F, 26 degrees C, on the 9th of February 1934. The coldest recorded wind chill was 37 degree F, 38 degrees C, on the same day as the all-time record low. Average winter snowfall between 1991 and 2020 was 29.8 inches, 76 centimeters. This varies considerably between years. The record cold daily maximum was 2 degrees Fahrenheit, 17 degrees C, on the 30th of December 1917, while, conversely, the record warm daily minimum was 87 degrees Fahrenheit, 31 degrees Celsius, on the 2nd of July 1903. The average water temperature of the nearby Atlantic Ocean ranges from 39.7 degrees Fahrenheit, 4.3 degrees Celsius, in February to 74.1 degrees Fahrenheit, 23.4 degrees Celsius, in August. Hurricanes and tropical storms are rare in the New York area. Hurricane Sandy brought a destructive storm surge to New York City on the evening of the 29th of October, 2012, flooding numerous streets, tunnels, and subway lines in Lower Manhattan and other areas of the city, and cutting off electricity in many parts of the city and its suburbs. The storm and its profound impacts have prompted the discussion of constructing seawalls and other coastal barriers around the shorelines of the city and the metropolitan area to minimize the risk of destructive consequences from another such event in the future. 1v2 T3 E Climate data for New York, Belvedere Castle, Central Park, 1991-2020 normals. Extremes 1869 present. Parks. Main articles, New York City Department of Parks and Recreation and list of New York City parks. The City of New York has a complex park system, with various lands operated by the National Park Service, the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation and Historic Preservation, and the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. In its 2023 Park Score ranking, the Trust for Public Land reported that the park system in New York City was the 10th best park system among the most populous U.S. cities, citing the city's park acreage, investment in parks, and that 99% of residents are within 1 2-mile, 0.80 kilometer, of a park. Gateway National Recreation Area contains over 26,000 acres, 110 kilometers, most of it in New York City. In Brooklyn and Queens, the park contains over 9,000 acres, 36 kilometers, of salt marsh, wetlands, islands, and water, including most of Jamaica Bay and the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Refuge. Also in Queens, the park includes a significant portion of the Western Rockaway Peninsula, most notably Jacob Riis Park and Fort Tilden. In Staten Island, it includes Fort Wadsworth, with historic pre-Civil War era Battery Weed, and Fort Tompkins, and Great Kills Park. The Statue of Liberty National Monument and Ellis Island Immigration Museum are managed by the National Park Service and are in both New York and New Jersey. They are joined in the harbor by Governor's Island National Monument. Historic sites under federal management on Manhattan Island include Stonewall National Monument, Castle Clinton National Monument, Federal Hall National Memorial, Theodore Roosevelt Birthplace National Historic Site, General Grant National Memorial, Grant's Tomb, African Burial Ground National Monument, and Hamilton Grange National Memorial. Hundreds of properties are listed on the National Register of Historic Places or as a National Historic Landmark. There are 7 state parks within the confines of New York City. They include the Clay Pit Ponds State Park Preserve, a natural area that includes extensive riding trails, the Riverbank State Park, a 28-acre, 11-ha facility, and the Marsha P. Johnson State Park, a state park in Brooklyn and Manhattan that borders the East River, renamed in honor of Marsha P. Johnson. New York City has over 28,000 acres, 110 kilometers, of municipal parkland and 14 miles, 23 kilometers, of public beaches. The largest municipal park in the city is Pelham Bay Park in the Bronx, with 2,772 acres, 1,122 ha, and the most visited urban park is the Central Park, and one of the most filmed and visited locations in the world, with 42 million visitors in 2023. Environment. Main article, Environmental Issues in New York City. Environmental issues in New York City are affected by the city's size, density, abundant public transportation infrastructure, and its location at the mouth of the Hudson River. For example, it is one of the country's biggest sources of pollution and has the lowest per capita greenhouse gas emissions rate and electricity usage. Governor's Island is planned to host a $1 billion research and education center to make New York City the global leader in addressing the climate crisis. As an oceanic port city, New York City is vulnerable to long-term manifestations of global warming like sea level rise exacerbated by land subsidence. Climate change has spawned the development of a significant climate resiliency and environmental sustainability economy in the city. New York City has focused on reducing its environmental impact and carbon footprint. Mass transit use is the highest in the country. New York's high rate of public transit use, more than 610,000 daily cycling trips as of 2022, and many pedestrian commuters make it the most energy-efficient major city in the United States. Walk and bicycle modes of travel account for 21% of all modes for trips in the city. Nationally, the rate for metro regions is about 8%. In both 2011 and 2015, WalkScore named New York City the most walkable large city in the United States, and in 2018, Stacker ranked New York the most walkable American city. Citibank sponsored public bicycles for the city's bike share project, which became known as City Bike, in 2013. New York City's numerical in-season cycling indicator of bicycling in the city had hit an all-time high of 437 when measured in 2014. The New York City drinking water supply is extracted from the protected Catskill Mountains watershed. As a result of the watershed's integrity and undisturbed natural water filtration system, New York is one of only 4 major cities in the United States, the majority of whose drinking water is pure enough not to require water treatment. The city's municipal water system is the nation's largest, moving more than 1 billion US gallons, 3.8 billion liters, of water daily from a watershed covering 1,900 square miles, 4,900 kilometers. According to the 2016 World Health Organization Global Urban Ambient Air Pollution Database, the annual average concentration in New York City's air of particulate matter measuring 2.5 micrometers or less, PM2.5, was 7.0 micrograms per cubic meter, or 3.0 micrograms within the recommended limit of the WHO Air Quality Guidelines for the annual mean PM2.5. The New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, in partnership with Queens College, conducts the New York Community Air Survey to measure pollutants at about 150 locations. Demographics. Main articles: Demographics of New York City and Demographic History of New York City. New York City is the most populous city in the United States, with 8,804,190 residents as of the 2020 census, its highest decennial count ever, incorporating more immigration into the city than outmigration since the 2010 census. More than twice as many people live in New York City as in Los Angeles, the second most populous American city. The city's population in 2020 was 35.9% white, 22.7% black, 14.6% Asian, 10.5% mixed, 0.7% Native American and 0.1% Pacific Islander. 28.4% identified themselves as Hispanic or Latino. Between 2010 and 2020, New York City gained 629,000 residents, more than the total gains over the same decade of the next four largest American cities, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Phoenix, combined. The city's population density of 27,744.1 inhabitants per square mile, 10,712.1/kilometer, makes it the densest of any American municipality with a population above 100,000. Manhattan's population density is 70,450.8 inhabitants per square mile, 27,201.2/kilometer, the highest of any county in the United States. Based on data from the 2020 census, New York City comprises about 43.6% of the state's population of 20,202,320, and about 39% of the population of the New York metropolitan area. The majority of New York City residents in 2020, 5,141,539 or 58.4%, were living in Brooklyn or Queens, the two boroughs on Long Island. As many as 800 languages are spoken in New York, and the New York City metropolitan statistical area has the largest foreign-born population of any metropolitan region in the world. The New York region continues to be by far the leading metropolitan gateway for legal immigrants admitted into the United States, substantially exceeding the combined totals of Los Angeles and Miami. Nearly 7 times as many young professionals applied for jobs in New York City in 2023 as compared to 2019, making New York the most popular destination for recent college graduates. Ethnicity and nationality. Main articles: Race and ethnicity in New York City and New York City ethnic enclaves. According to 2022 estimates from the American Community Survey, the largest self-reported ancestries in New York City were Dominican, 8.7%, Chinese, 7.5%, Puerto Rican, 6.9%, Italian, 5.5%, Mexican, 4.4%, Irish, 4.4%, Asian Indian, 3.1%, German, 2.9%, Jamaican, 2.4%, Ecuadorian, 2.3%, English, 2.1%, Polish, 1.9%, Russian, 1.7%, Arab, 1.4%, Haitian, 1.4%, Guyanese, 1.3%, Filipino, 1.1%, and Korean, 1.1%. Historical demographics 2020, 2010, 1990, 1970, 1940. Based on American Community Survey data from 2018 to 2022, approximately 36.3% of the city's population is foreign-born, compared to 13.7%